do you think religion is?
Depending what you mean by religion. I mean, if you mean the Abrahamic religions.
We're on weak ground here because, of course, I'm religiously illiterate. But
okay, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Well, no, I mean, I guess, yeah, and the other such religions of that type. What are those?
Well, Buddhism is different.
Yeah.
Spiritual beliefs among Native Americans was different.
No,
I mean, there's all kind of religions.
The distinction that we're talking about there.
We're talking about the Abrahamic religion.
No, Catholicism,
okay,
Protestantism.
Yeah, that's the
Hindu, I guess.
No, the Hindus are different. I mean, it's quite different. Buddhism is quite different. I mean, if you really look at these systems of belief, they differ a lot. In fact,
no. But what I'm asking is, what is religion per se? Not what are the beliefs of a particular religion?
Belief that there's something in the world which is beyond my grasp, which is determining the way things happen, and it's going to, it'll be a consolation for me. Maybe, if my child is dying, I'll see him again in heaven somewhere. I mean, these kinds of beliefs, and that there's a sort of a spiritual force somewhere beyond my grasp. And that explains why things are happening. And that's probably ubiquitous. And it's perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, weird things are happening. Like the sun is going around the earth. You can see it. I mean, it doesn't have to be happening, but you see it. Well, something must be making it happen. Okay, so it's Apollo on his chariot pulling the sun. And the same with everything else goes on. You don't understand anything that's happening in the world, in personal life. And, why is my child, sweet little wonderful kid, dying? He didn't do anything. So there's got to be some explanation somewhere.
So it's a set of stories to make sense of reality, except not science.
I mean, Apollo pulling the sun with a chariot is, well, it's early science.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a kind of a scientific theory, it's going to get worked out, not trivial. Like, for example, the classical Greeks did discover a lot of things.
But if you say it now, when there's lots of evidence other than that, then it's no longer science.
That just means that our understanding has deepened.
Right.
But, the transition from magic to science is a pretty smooth transition. And it just, even the word science in English didn't even appear until the mid-19th century. I mean, there was a word, but it meant something else, just meant knowledge. In the mid-19th century, there was a divorce between science and philosophy. Before, it was just philosophy. In fact, if you go to Oxford, let's say, you can study natural philosophy and moral philosophy. Natural philosophy is what we here call the natural sciences. Moral philosophy is what we call the humanities. But through German, it's the same thing. So the whole concept of science, in our sense, is a pretty recent one. And it began, and there was an intellectual revolution. It sort of begins with Galileo and goes on, and it led to enormous insights. And after a while, science just kind of took off and became a special domain. In the early 19th century, it was, take say Kant. He couldn't have told you whether he was a philosopher or a scientist. He taught astronomy. I mean, he taught moral philosophy. And, an intelligent, educated gentleman did all those things. Well, by the mid-19th century, it's becoming very hard to do all those things. The sciences were reaching a point where you really understand things. And you couldn't be a gentleman who knows everything. So, okay, things got professionalized, and we get, what we call science, separate domain. But recall how recent this is. Prior to that, people were trying to figure things out. And we might now call what they're trying to figure out magic, but these are pretty smart people. Take, say, Isaac Newton. He's not a fool exactly. I mean, he's now people laugh about the fact that he would spend most of his life working on chemistry and church fathers. That was alchemy and church fathers. That was perfectly reasonable. I mean, in terms of what are called corpuscularian theories that everybody accepted. The world is made up of little building blocks like bricks.
Shift a few.
Yeah, shift a few and you get gold from lead. That makes perfect sense. As for the church fathers, that made perfect sense too. I mean, he was coming right after the humanist period when there had been a sudden discovery of the wealth and richness of classical civilizations, which hadn't been known. So the belief expanded that these guys really understood something. And they were kind of keeping it secret for us, so they were doing it in an esoteric way. And if we can decode what they were doing, we'll get all kind of wonderful discoveries. So it wasn't an irrational pursuit.